In 2002, Nissan released a car that was literally different depending on which side you looked at it from. On the left, a giant wraparound window, glass stretching from the rear door all the way around the corner. On the right, nothing. Just a solid C-pillar and regular rectangular window. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a design study. It was a production car sold to real people for over a decade, and the asymmetry was the entire point. The story starts with a coffee break. Hirotada Kuwahara was a Nissan designer in his 10th year at the company, working on what would become the second generation Cube. The first Cube, launched in Japan in 1998, was a perfectly fine little box, a tall, upright mini MPV sharing its platform with the Nissan Micra. Sensible, unremarkable, not the car anyone remembers. Kuwahara sat in the company canteen, drinking coffee, and started thinking about what a Japanese compact car could actually be. He later described the moment. It wouldn't be just another classic European compact, but one born from distinctively Japanese ideas. I thought of the common Japanese situation of having a car to frequently back up on tight roads, and I got a flash. Cut the rear window asymmetrically to expand the rear view and help drivers back out with confidence. He sketched the idea on a notepad and took it to his boss. The response? A quick glance, then, okay, back to work now. At one point, his drawing showing two different rear treatments, one with the wraparound window and one without, were mistaken for a pair of options laid side by side. The idea that a car could be intentionally asymmetrical was so far outside of normal thinking that his own colleagues couldn't process what they were looking at. Kuwahara didn't drop it. He later said he prepared to leave Nissan if the idea wasn't taken seriously. And then something changed. The Renault-Nissan alliance formed in 1999, Carlos Ghosn arrived, and suddenly Nissan's design division had more room to take risks. The asymmetrical Cube got the green light. So why did it exist? The asymmetry wasn't purely styling. It was a practical solution to a Japanese problem. On right-hand drive cars in Japan, the driver sits on the right. When reversing out of tight parking spaces or into narrow streets, the biggest blind spot is over your left shoulder, the far side. The wraparound window was a literal solution. Eliminate the left side blind spot by replacing it with glass. The cost of that solution was the right side. Nissan couldn't put wraparound glass on both corners. The C-pillar on one side had to exist for structural rigidity, so they picked a side, committed to the asymmetry, and built the car around it. This is the part that gets missed in every, quote, ugliest cars list. The Cube wasn't weird for the sake of being weird. It was weird because it prioritized function, specifically a function that mattered intensely in Tokyo and barely registered in Los Angeles. When the Gen 2 Cube launched in 2002, the response in Japan was immediate. It wasn't a niche curiosity, it was a hit. Nissan sold the Cube alongside variants including a 7-seat Cubic, supercharged and all-wheel drive versions, and collaborations with design houses like Autech and Impel. In 2003, British designer Sebastian Conran, who traded his Porsche 911 for a Cube and called it wonderfully rational, not hung up on looking like cars have always looked, designed a special edition for the Tokyo Motor Show. 5,000 units sold out in weeks. For the third generation, Nissan decided the Cube was ready for the world. The Z12 Cube arrived in 2008 with a design brief that was somehow even bolder. The front grille, according to Nissan's own press materials, was inspired by a bulldog wearing sunglasses. The rear door opened sideways like a refrigerator. The interior borrowed the lounge concept, ripple pattern upholstery meant to mimic the look of water droplets on a calm surface. The enormous glass roof, previewed in the Conran concept years earlier, finally made production. When the Cube landed in American showrooms in 2009, it entered a market that briefly seemed ready for boxy weirdness. The Scion XB had proven that Americans would buy a toaster on wheels, and the Honda Element was building a cult around its own brand of utilitarian oddness. The Cube arrived priced around $14,000, powered by a 1.8-liter, 4-cylinder engine making 122 horsepower, with a choice of 6-speed manual transmission or a CVT. But the Cube had a problem those other cars didn't. It looked genuinely alien. The XB was boxy but tough. The Element was boxy but rugged. The Cube was boxy but cute and asymmetrical and had a face that looked like a dog. Sales tell the story. Roughly 22,000 units in 2009, then a slide that never stopped. 2010 brought a modest refresh, new grille, updated gauges, standard Bluetooth, but the numbers kept falling. By 2013, Nissan sold fewer than 5,000 Cubes in the entire United States. The reasons weren't complicated. The Cube's 1.8-liter engine delivered mediocre fuel economy, around 27 miles per gallon combined, in a segment where the competition was getting more efficient every year. The CVT transmission earned a reputation for drone and unreliability. On American highways, the tall, boxy shape generated wind noise that made conversation difficult above 65 miles per hour, and the car's entire reason for existing, the asymmetrical window designed for Tokyo parking, meant nothing to someone commuting on an interstate. In 2014, Nissan quietly pulled the Cube from its North American lineup. No farewell edition, no press conference, no fanfare, just gone. The global version limped along in Japan until 2019, when Nissan ended production entirely, 21 years after the original, and not a single generational update after 2008. It landed on Edmunds' 100 ugliest cars of all time list. It landed on personal lists as well. Internet forums filled with people calling it a rolling shoebox, a half-melted Scion, and worst of all, a mistake. But here's where the story turns. The Cube never really went away. Used models on Car Gurus and Edmunds, spanning 2009 to 2014, still sell today for between $5,000 and $13,000 depending on condition and mileage, not because they're objectively good cars, but because they're memorable. The Cube has something that the sensible, symmetrical compact cars of its era never had: a personality. Owners form clubs. They customize them. They defend them. Sebastian Conran wasn't the last person who traded a Porsche for his Cube and felt liberated. The car community has a phrase for this: cult classic. The Cube is building its case for that status right now, in real time, as the remaining ones get older and rarer. The bulletproof irony is that Hirotara Kuwahara was right, just not in the way he expected. He wanted a car whose design wouldn't fade. The Cube is 20 plus years out from its asymmetrical debut, and people still stop and stare at them. Some of them laugh, some of them go out and buy one. A car that was literally different depending on which side you looked at it from. Sometimes the strangest design choices are the ones that last. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other cars you'd be interested in seeing me cover in future episodes of unRemarkable.